This is the corner of building 1. You can see the Brazilian pepper touching the building, actually overlapping the roof there. This is all Brazilian pepper, all that dead stuff on the ground. And for some reason in this back section, it seems to lay over like that. 20 feet of laid over, dried, dead Brazilian pepper. And what are we? 10 feet from the corner of building 1. There's building 2. But you can see how this is all Brazilian pepper. Kills its own understory. It's allelopathic. See all that dead fuel. You step back a few feet and you go, okay, well, green hedge, not too bad. Then you get up close. You see all that fuel. Anybody that goes camping and builds a campfire knows that's exactly, doesn't get any more ideal than that. Small, dried stuff with a lot of surface area and a lot of oxygen around it. That's a bonfire waiting to happen, actually. So my computer reverses the image. For some reason you gotta reverse the image in your head. That's the back of building 2. That's the side of building 6. This is all Brazilian pepper. You can see how it just kind of lays over in this back section of the preserve. Big beautiful oak tree right there. Nobody even knows it's there. Can't even see the light of day. All that dead. You can see all that dead stuff on the ground. All the Brazilian pepper. This is all dead, dry as a bone Brazilian pepper. See. So this Brazilian pepper here is what, 20 feet from the corner of building 6. There's building 7, mine and Bill's building. It's probably 25, 30 feet from the corner of building 7. But this is an interesting spot right here. From this one spot I can see building 1, 2, 6, 7, and 8, all within 250 feet of this one spot. I can see a third of all the buildings in the complex from this one spot. And you can see all these buildings have back access. Big grassy areas that people like to come and walk their dogs here. This is kind of a unique, kind of a high profile spot in the complex. Oh, you can see all this laid over dried Brazilian pepper. Oh, California wren. Oh, cardinal. I don't know if you can make him out. So these are a little stretch of grass right here before too long. This is the little area I cleared out here. That hedge of Brazilian pepper used to come across and connect with this hedge here. And for 10 years now I wanted to rescue this poor oak tree. This big Brazilian pepper back here was laying all on it, and this is a Brazilian pepper limb. You can see how high it goes up into the oak tree. That's how Brazilian pepper just lays over in this back section of the preserve. Oh, there's my unit on the corner, Bill's unit above me. I'll come to the sidewalk here. That's what you see when you come out of our units. It's about, at its narrowest spot, it's about 50 yards that way and about 100 yards that way. That's the, if you look straight through there, that's the tennis court. Anyway, this is what the Brazilian pepper looks like right outside of mine and Bill's unit. Laid over and dead for about 20 feet. There's the poop bag station. It's dead and dry as a bone for about 20 feet in there. And what are we? 50 feet from the corner of mine and Bill's unit, from the corner of building 7, and goes like that pretty well to the corner of building 8 there. But, so here's the clearing I made. This is cabbage palm. Sprouts up like weeds. That's our state tree. That'll be a full-blown palm tree someday. They just sprout like weeds everywhere. Cabbage palm, cabbage palm. This cabbage palm wasn't here. I made this little clearing 6 months ago, and that cabbage palm wasn't even there. Now it's 6 feet tall. This is Florida native. This is soft leaf wild coffee. This is you can actually eat these berries. And if you went to a Florida native nursery, that's about $100 worth of wild coffee right there, 6 feet tall, already sprouted up on its own. But that's what would happen. Things would just sprout up on their own and begin to fill the area. And it's Florida. Things grow 12 months out of the year. But anyway, there's a big, beautiful laurel oak I exposed. People wouldn't have even known it was back here had I not cut that one down. You can see that. That's a cabbage palm right there. That's probably 10 feet tall. One next to it, that'll be 10 feet tall by next year. And one next to it will be already 6-7 feet tall. That'll be 10 feet tall in a couple months. It's a big Senegal date palm back there that you see. Slash pine. Oak. I plotted this area. There's in this back section there's over 50 oak trees that are over 2 foot in diameter. Big beautiful laurel oak right behind the one I exposed. There's mine and Bill's unit. But you can see how in this back section you can just walk around back here. This could be like a park for the enclave. Nice place to take a walk, get in the shade, cool off a little. Now, if we just cleared out all this dead stuff, this would be really nice back in here. You can just see the cabbage palm. Sprouts up everywhere. We're walking behind the Brazilian pepper now. That's mine and Bill's unit right there. More soft leaf wild coffee. That's about $50 worth of wild coffee right there. 4 big oak trees right here that you can't see because of all this nasty Brazilian pepper. How dead and dry and nasty that is in there. Two big oak trees right here. But look at that oak tree there. That's probably my favorite oak tree in this whole preserve. That thing's spectacular. And nobody even knows it's back here. A cabbage palm. Nice beautiful oak right there. And there's the hedge of Brazilian pepper. A real nice oak. Another real nice oak. But that's our start of our pond right back there, choked by Brazilian pepper. But you can see all the oak trees in here. Cabbage palm sprouting up everywhere. This is a real desirable Florida native wax myrtle. This is what they make bayberry candles out of. Saw palmetto. Probably our most desirable native. More Florida wildlife rely on the saw palmetto for food than any other plant. Here's a red maple. That's a Florida native. I'd love to transplant that little guy and put him in a better spot. You see a real nice oak there. Big cabbage palm there. I can barely make out our pond there. I'd love to get all the nasty stuff out of that pond area and make that something special. Something special for wading birds and turtles, and having water in your wooded areas really special. Wildlife will stop at your wooded area, but you got to give them reason to. Water gives them a reason to stay. So that's real. Having a pond like that's key. Big, beautiful oak there. But you can see it's like a park back in here. There's our clubhouse parking lot. If you're trying to get your bearings, clubhouse right there. You see all the big cabbage palms right here. Huge slash pine there. There's our pond. And unfortunately, we have a stand of Melaleuca. Probably in the top 5 worst invasive. Bunch of mature cabbage palm here. Nice huge mature oak tree here. 30 feet off the road that nobody even knows it's here because of all that Brazilian pepper right on the fringe. This is where it starts to, this is as you're walking towards 9th Street. I call it the front third, maybe close to a half, but it's a little higher ground here. Kind of transitions to a higher area. A lot more ground vegetation. A little tougher to walk through. Saw palmetto everywhere. A couple of ditches in there that drain our pond right there. So walk back towards the road. It's the clubhouse. It's all mostly Brazilian pepper. Cabbage palm. White bird of paradise, I believe. Schefflera. Cabbage palm. Schefflera. Beautiful oak tree right there. Nice oak tree right there, and you can see the Brazilian pepper, the red berries, climbing all up into it. Gonna screw it up. Areca palm. So this is a good example of what we're doing wrong here. There's a beautiful oak tree right there. There's our buddy the Brazilian pepper right in front of it. Grows 10 feet a year. And then you come to in front of that oak tree, you can't even see it because of this Brazilian pepper right here. You can't even make that oak tree out thanks to that Brazilian pepper. Real nice oak tree back there, but you can't really make it out. This is our sidewalk in front of the preserve, 9th Street. And why we don't have anything planted on that 200-foot stretch of pond in front of 9th Street to help block the noise, I don't know. But here's I don't think you can make it out on the camera, but that's about a 2 or 3 foot deep ditch that they tell me I'm not here in the summer, but they tell me the water builds up here and flows over the sidewalk. Well, they should have never dammed it up with this sidewalk. They should have at least put a culvert under this sidewalk and drain it into that pond. And that would help drain that whole area and keep the mosquitoes down. What would be really cute, you see it in a lot of our parks, if they dug that out and put a wooden walking bridge over this. That'd be really neat. Wooden walking bridge, and then plant some cypress or something to block the front of our complex there. I'm sure the people in Building 9 there would appreciate something planted here. So you can see this is all Brazilian pepper canopied over. But it doesn't, you can see how the Brazilian pepper doesn't really lay over in the front of the preserve. We can't just be throwing our clippings in the preserve like this, adding to the fire danger. But you can see there's saw palmetto trying to sprout up, our cabbage palm trying to sprout up all through here. Real nice palm or oak there. Oh, there's a wax myrtle. Cabbage palm everywhere. It just sprouts up like weeds. Real nice oak tree there. Beautiful live oak right through there. Probably my second favorite oak in this whole preserve. But you can see how it doesn't quite lay over, isn't quite the fire danger in the front of the preserve. You can see the saw palmetto or cabbage palm. It's just everywhere. That's a saw palmetto. So if you were gonna put a path through this front section of the preserve, you'd probably come right through there, because there's the pond area there, and you might as well make it at the edge of the pond, because pretty close is the sidewalk there. So buildings 9 and 10 are probably just going to use the sidewalk. Probably only 11 and 12 would probably utilize a path through here. They'd come in and enjoy it, but I don't know that they would necessarily use it to go to the clubhouse. Building 11 and 12 probably would. But there's no buildings. More soft leaf wild coffee. $50 worth of wild coffee there. But there's no buildings behind 10 and 11 and 12 here. So, let's see. We shouldn't be throwing our clippings in the woods like that. It grows 10 feet a year, so I mean, I don't blame the person throwing them in the woods, but when it grows 10 feet a year and it's an invasive, you just got to get rid of it. Because we can't just be doing that. That is actually illegal, to cut it with the berries off and do that. But look at the spectacular oak tree right behind there. And then this is the corner of building 12. And then we can't be doing that. And that's just a Brazilian pepper mess right here. I think there's only 2 oak trees in that whole mess right here. But that's just a mess right there. So here is our back gate, and that's the strip mall. And you saw how things are just going to fill in the preserve. You just let it be. A lot of things will sprout and start to fill in. But that's the way that strip malls looked since I've moved in here. I sort of have a hard time asking the people in this building here. Sorry, I don't know the number of the building, but I sort of have a hard time. When they look out their back door and that's their view, they see that strip mall asking them to dip into their pocket and fill in more in that preserve when it's going to fill in on its own anyway. Anyhow, that's it.